So define presidential courage.
Presidential courage is when a president takes a big political risk on a big issue that is necessary for the country that may also destroy him, but a risk that later generations think is wise.
Do presidents know in real time that they're making this decision, or is this a kind of blind courage sometimes?
Well, they know in real time that they're making a decision that involves risk, because the ones I've written about with these 9 presidents, these are all people who literally were looking into their open grave. Every single one of these decisions could have destroyed them politically, and in some cases subjected them to death threats, as it was with George Washington and Abraham Lincoln.
Talk about the death threat, the actual threat of losing your life. What's the Washington example and what's the Lincoln example?
Well, in George Washington's case, he did this thing called Jay's Treaty, which many people do not remember. But in the second to last year of his time in office, Washington was worried the British would invade and basically end the United States before it began. So he negotiated this treaty with the British that had all sorts of concessions that many people were furious about in this country. Jay said that he could walk the length of the United States at night just by the light of all of his effigies burning. And Washington was subjected to the same kind of contempt, which is an experience he had never had before. One example was in Virginia, even veterans who had served under him in the revolutions raised their glasses and said, "A speedy death to General Washington."
You chose 9 presidents, 9 examples. That's about 20% of the people who have been president. Are there people you considered but did not include that might have bumped that number up to make us feel better about?
They're not only 9.
Is this it?
What I tried to do here was deal with presidents who covered the whole span of 200 years from George Washington and on, and at the same time, people who showed courage from different perspectives. For instance, like John Kennedy in 1963, who was politically cowardly for 2.5 years. Elected in 1960, 90% of the African American vote, pledged to do something about civil rights, did virtually nothing for 2.5 years. Then there's a crisis in Birmingham. The city almost goes up in flame, and his brother Bobby says, it may cost us a lot to send a big civil rights bill to Congress, but the alternative is that northern cities may burn this summer and you will be blamed. So Kennedy sent the famous civil rights bill up, knowing that it might have jeopardized his re-election had he lived.
Is there a pattern of the presidents you write about of at what point in either a first or second term they rolled the dice?
John Adams made his decision in 1800 when he had to run for re-election. This was a decision to actually make peace with France. His own party, it's almost like George W. Bush in reverse. His own party, the Federalists, wanted a war with France, both because they were angry at the French and also because they felt that the war fever would help them politically. Adams, on the other hand, said, "I don't want to do it because I don't think it's necessary." He said, words have very great resonance today among many people. He said, "Great is the guilt of an unnecessary war." So he told his own party, "I'm not going to do it," and as a result they sat on their hands and caused him to lose re-election.